Welcome to the Consultants Way podcast, your go-to resource for all things professional services consulting. Brought to you by McMahon & Ransford, a strategy consulting firm with over 30 years of experience helping B2B organizations achieve sustainable growth, and the Consultants Way, the leading comprehensive consultant development program. Hosted by Dean McMahon and Anthony Paluska, we share expert insights, firsthand experiences, and conversations with industry leaders on the topics that interest you most.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of their employer, company, or affiliated organizations.
Welcome back to the Consultants Way podcast. Anthony Paluska, Dean McMahon. Today we have Paul Milana. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Paul's lots of experience in professional services, spent years playing lots of different roles, right? Doing on-the-ground delivery to selling professional services to leading teams to all of the above. So, Paul, why don't you walk the audience through your background a little bit, and then we'll dive into the topic today.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a computer geek at heart. I grew up with a computer since I can remember, being 11, 12-year-old, hacking a Commodore 64. So it's in my blood.
Well, that dated you, Paul. I really did.
Oh, yeah. Well, sorry about that. Yeah. Coming up through college with a management information systems degree, finding my love for data and databases, worked very heavily in Oracle and SQL Server and doing data conversion, scrubbing data, reporting on data. That was really my love. But I never wanted to be the guy in the cubicle that, slid the requirements under the door and spit code back out. I wanted to be out in the world and speaking to people, working with people in the business, which is really what MIS is and was in the degree that I got. So I ended up working and doing a lot of system implementations, which included a lot of data in the beginning, as data conversions, do in the implementations. So formed a team, starting off with just a couple of people and maturing into about 20 people, comprised of database programmers, analysts, project managers, and the like. And so we were called the integrations team, or people at that point. After working out and working with some bigger companies, I found that we were really professional services. So I renamed it to professional services. And I believe that's the connection we have here for sure.
That's right. Yeah, there's so many people that we talk to, right? They go through the journey. They say, I'm fascinated and interested and driven by the technical aspects of things. And then I'm attached to a particular product or suite of products, and I focus on that. And then overnight, sometime we look down and we realize, well, we're not just the implementation, the integration team, but we're the ones that actually complete the promise of what the product actually said it was going to do and what the customer actually thought they were going to buy. We're the glue that holds all that together. And professional services is a nice name to put on that unit.
I've always thought we should go, instead of consulting, go by insulting. But no, that's not caught on. I've got no buy-in yet.
Yeah, it's amazing what
I could get insulting.com, but no, nothing.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of responsibility, and you, on this podcast, you talk about expectations a lot, and working in that space and becoming the face of the product, the face of the company. Sometimes a relationship manager. They're the ones that you know and trust, and they want to continue working with you along the way. So it's been for me. It just It's been a great path and journey for me up to this point. I really enjoy, again, both the technical aspects and the business aspects of the role that I've been in.
Well, no matter the role that we ultimately end up playing with a client, that entire journey as a professional services team always starts with the discovery process and getting to know our customers and understand their true needs, right? There, even if there was a bit of a handoff from the initial conversations that may have taken place with sales, we're always in the discovery process. Is there a moment that you have as you think about discovery and the importance of that to set the stage for everything else that really stands out to you, maybe positively or negatively?
Sure. I think first impressions are everything. The first email you send, the first agenda, the first document you send, to a potential client is really important. And over my tenure, we've evolved. We're not very rigid in our processes, but we've evolved to understand how to develop the best relationship with a good first impression right from the outset of that endeavor. So we got a bit more formal and started doing discoveries. We called them contained discoveries, paid discoveries, where we would usually take a trip for a couple of days and list out 16 hours of meetings, maybe lunch, maybe a note taking session in the middle there. And, it always felt like a win-win to me. It was, a moment where we could establish a friendship, good communication, and do some real work, do some analysis, and deliver a document in the end on what we found. If it wasn't a good fit, you have that document. You have our expertise, our opinions on everything that you do, and you can choose, which direction to go after that.
And where were these in the process? Was this post sale? Was this part of the pre sales process? Was this its own individual discovery project that was scoped and sold as that 16 hours worth of you and your team's time? How did that fit into the overall sales process for technology and services combined?
Sure. Yeah. Certainly pre-sales, and working really close with salespeople. Um, Here's a client. They like our products. They're not really sure what they want or what they need or if they need. Um, we're going to recommend that we do a couple day discovery and talk to them and figure out how they work, and then take the next steps from there.
Good, and that's a big commitment from you and your team. So we want to make sure we're going into those situations with qualified opportunities. What role, if any, did you play in that process? All right, specifically talking about this example you were just giving,
Mhm.
in making sure that you're going to spend a couple of days getting to know these people and understanding that there's a there in terms of a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I think it starts with a conversation, with a potential client, one on one, or a smaller group to kind of understand how things are set up. But really coming up with giving everyone a voice, at the potential client that wants to speak and wants to talk about what they do and what improvements they might see. Um, but as far as myself, resource management is always a balancing act. So then there are times where I would lead those. There are times that others on my team would lead those discoveries. But one of the things that we've found almost happens when you don't even realize it is you speak to many clients over time. You start to see patterns, and you're able to decipher languages where two people are actually saying the same thing but using different words. Over time, you develop, an ear for all those different dialects, and you can come to the table with a ton of discoveries in those conversations under your belt, and bring that into the next conversation here without revealing any major trade secrets. But um, here's how I've seen it done. Here's a team your size. Here's a way that I've seen it done, and it's been successful using our product in this particular case.
Yeah, the patterns you talk about, um, there's that balance between them needing to share and feel heard and supported, and that you've seen it before,
Right.
right? Yeah. So we specialize in 35 years of professional services in product companies, and after doing that, maybe 700 different meetings, and we kind of quickly understand, but we have learned it's just as important that they understand, we understand. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And it's like any relationship. There's
Right.
things that need to be said and things that need to be felt. And I find that fun. I find that a fun part of the job because you can get out of the, am I really just doing discovery or am I
Hmm.
helping someone understand where they are? Right.
Right.
And I find that really, really rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, myself as well. And hearing it and taking notes and giving it back in a formal way, and having a larger group read it, starts to resonate throughout. And
Yeah.
and
The aha moment they get.
yeah, exactly. And I'm going to intentionally put a knock on RFIs and RFPs because we get those large spreadsheets and there's questions and answers and not a lot of conversation in those cases. And we never liked those because we never got a chance to engage. Yes, but no, but we never got a chance. It was very very binary kind of conversation.
Yeah, we would argue on the RFPs and on the client's behalf, and we've said this many times. You're not really serving yourself to find the best partner for you
Mhm.
because you have taken a three-dimensional journey and tried to make it into. It's the difference between a surgery, right, where you don't know what's going on till you get in there, and the old manufacturing line where you put the dot on the chocolate,
Mhm.
right? And it just doesn't really work. And I understand how we got here,
Mhm.
right? But I don't know of any very few examples where that really helps,
Yeah, and I think there's a
unless
great
you wrote the RFP yourself
right.
for your client. Then it
There's
works great for you, but I'm not sure it works for them.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a gray area there too. Excuse me. I've been really impressed with what I've seen. People take a lot of time to understand each piece of functionality that they absolutely need to run their business, and pages and tabs worth of that. But there has to be that personal component alongside that as well. What I'm saying is, I don't think it's only that or only that. I think you have to really combine the real human touch in order to really understand what kind of partnership you might be getting into with another company.
Yeah, yeah, and some of them are better prepared than other ones.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely,
For sure.
absolutely.
But yeah, to Dean's point on that, and to yours as well, Paul. Right, the personal touch allows you to go and read between the lines of what would be written in an RFP
Hmm.
and understand despite what's said here. I heard what this person said, and I heard what this person said, and so I can deduce based on my experience doing these other things that this is going to be something that prevents this organization from being successful. And they might not be able to put that down pen to paper into an RFP. And so, how could we possibly scope for it? How could they possibly know if we're the right partner to help them overcome that particular roadblock or barrier? And so,
Hmm.
discovery is so much more than just okay. Let's demonstrate that we can figure out what's going on at your organization at the surface level, so that we could write an RFP for you, or we could check the qualifications off that we can actually do what you want us to do. But it's
Hmm.
all the stuff that you as a client don't know that you need done that is really important for
That's
us to
impressive.
understand during discovery and help to tease out whether or not we can solve that and how we might go about that. Do you see it the same way?
Absolutely. I think you define what a real good partnership and relationship is right there. We care. We're here for the long run. We're not here to install something and walk away and say good luck. Thanks for those monthly fees. Appreciate it.
Well, we
It's
do like monthly fees, right?
Those are good too. But yeah, we're establishing a community, establishing those relationships and partnerships is, I think, the best way to do business, the best way to develop a community around your customers, around your products,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well,
Was
one
any?
of the things I like best about your story and experience is, and you mentioned this earlier, but my opinion, and correct me, but you started like at ground -1, not even zero with this, or with the group that you grew up so much and put so much time into.
Sure.
And you kind of discovered what works and doesn't work and what kind of people can work there. And by the way, lived through it,
Sure.
right? Yeah, everybody does know Paul's only 18, but look at him, how hard it's been.
Amazing. Yeah, I had a Commodore 64. It was an antique when I got it.
Yeah. Well, at least it wasn't Commodore
Yeah, sure. I
32.
mean, again, starting small with just a couple of people, and trying to grow our group. Um, Again, and it was a two-way conversation, speaking with companies and asking questions about how they work with other consultants and other professional services team. How do we stack up against that? Can we do more for you? Are we doing too much? Um, we learned a lot along the way, and yeah, it evolved and matured into something that worked for a lot of people. It was interesting that integration is can be defined in a lot of different ways, but integration a lot of times means connecting two things together and taking away and embedding a product in a company, but connecting two systems. Right, how popular that is now with APIs, and everyone they've built their products on APIs. So a lot of what we did was not only the analysis, the training, the implementation, but connecting systems to each other. Really important part of that. So we ended up finding that it was a good idea to create a group just to do that kind of work, just to connect systems together, then try to develop templates and cookie cutters that we can keep repeating over and over and over again, to help our bottom line, obviously. But yeah, that was just kind of an interesting evolution of the group that I didn't see coming. But again, in this world, I think connectivity between systems is key. This is not a conversation about products, but best of breed is a real thing. There's never going to be one system that does everything awesome. So as long as that is true, there'll always be a huge need for integrations.
Paul, I want to go back to this discovery process that we were talking about earlier and the importance of that.
Mm-hmm.
Having led so many of these, both project managing them and overseeing a team that did them, and then actually being in there and doing them yourselves, how do you view the ideal structure for a discovery process that gets you the outcomes and the understanding that you need, builds the client intimacy that's important, helps to continue the sales process you're still there, right there in that pre-sales mindset,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things, right? How do you view the structure of that to best drive the results that you're looking for there?
Yeah, I think you mean the structure in terms of how to kind of guide the conversation and
No, I
prioritize.
kind of mean like you said 16 hours you're going to spend
Yeah,
with a client, right? You're going to spend
yeah.
2 days there on site. You're really going to get to know them and understand them.
Mm,
Take us through how you would view everything that would happen in advance of that session to make sure that you're prepared through
mm.
how do you actually sequence the couple of days out, and then what do you do immediately afterwards to tie it all together so that you're getting what you need and the client's getting what they need out of that
And sales is
very
the more
dedicated focused session, an investment of time for both parties.
Right. Yeah, sure. So I can speak to that. We certainly we're still pre-sales, right? So we want to make sure we focus in areas that we've been cued on. We know that the reason they're here, the reason they made that first call email is because they're interested in this, right? We want to make sure that we spend time on that, either particular piece of functionality, particular integration, or whatever it is. And then, based again on our experience and best practices, understand the entire business, and then structure the 16 hours, of agenda items, touching on each one of the areas where we think, our client would benefit. And literally every single hour. And it's funny because we'll have a representative, from that company sit with us throughout these 16 hours. And the end of the 16 hours are like, I don't know how you guys do this. It's intense. And we want to make the most of those 16 hours. So It could be, by functional area, by division, by business unit, wherever it makes the most sense, to divide up those meetings and conversations. And um, the document that we're preparing to deliver, it starts happening right then and there. The notes that we take throughout those meetings will then translate into a document that outlines and explains what we understand as the current state. This is how things work. These are the systems that are in play. Couple of paragraphs, not too wordy, not too technical, but then, okay, here's what I see the future state looking like. I see people that are putting things in spreadsheets and emailing them around into going into a SaaS system, a hosted database where we can enter things into a system. The other person can be alerted to it and kind of connect all those process flows, not using email. So literally, imagine 5, 6, 7, 8 different sections of current and future state. From there, it starts to get a little bit more templatized. From that, you can come up with a project plan. You can come up with an estimate, roughly, and really get closer to delivering a proposal. After that discovery is done. But there's of course, you want to do a follow up. Did you read the document? Do you have any questions? Do you want to dive any further into any of these areas? And I have to say, especially in larger projects, we'll get 6 months, 8 months, a year out, and we'll have to go back to that document and say, well, what is it that we found out then, and what did we recommend then? Is that still what we were interested in continuing with? And it serves as a nice, as a nice, what do I want to say, direction for the project, later on when things get a little more fuzzy as they get further away.
When you, without understanding the client, the vendor takes all the risk because that's the only way the client can manage it.
Right.
But once you understand, you can share the risk.
Mm-hmm.
You can advise. You can, and what I wanted to touch on right now, after you've said that, and by the way, very, very, very well stated, is we hear this all the time. Matter of fact, Anthony's running a study right now that our PS people have to become advisors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And talk a little bit about how your group moved or became people who could do that and advise the client along the journey, as opposed to we see a lot of PS technical people doing their activities,
Mm-hmm.
right? I did my activities, but that every client's so different that the activities alone don't ever get you there. So talk
For
a little
sure.
bit about that.
Yeah, I think I would love it for everybody on any professional services team to elevate themselves to that level where they could become an advisor. Um, I think it's a natural progress. I know for me personally, like I think I mentioned earlier, it was almost a surprise. I didn't even see it happening. Again, when I broke down that language barrier of, wait a second, you guys are the same. You're saying the same thing. I know this. you know, I'm able to advise you. What do your other clients do? That question is always number one. So I think, you know, being busy and working hard and doing as many projects as you possibly humanly can, and exposing yourself to as much as possible. It's if you like people, which I do, and a lot of advisors on my team do. It just becomes a natural evolution of yourself, and all of a sudden it's 10 years, all of a sudden it's 15 years, all of a sudden you have a pretty long resume, and a lot of experience working, and it becomes very valuable, and to have conversations like that later on.
Well, listen, this has been really great. Do you have a couple of things that you would like to just point out as people? Very few people are going to get the organic journey you've had to have.
Mm.
You've had the opportunity to have. And so just leave our audience with just a couple of let's call them Paulisms.
Paulisms. Well, the cliche of engaging in a partnership rather than a vendor client relationship has always been something that I've lived by, and it is cliche, and I hate that it is, but it's always something that um, that I've brought to every conversation and every new relationship with a client that I've ever had. And I think if you find the right partners out there, they'll reciprocate, be open and honest with you about what's going on. Whether you should stop bugging them about something, if they need a minute to breathe between phases of an implementation or something. We're in it for the long run. And if phase 3 happens 2 years from now because you need to breathe, then that's fine. But let's be open about that. I think, again, the first impressions are everything. Like I mentioned earlier. And I think it's really important, if you're going to be the person talking, and representing a company, you have to be at your best for sure. And I think, Dean, you talk about a lot of that, and Anthony, in the podcast as well. The expectations are so high, but it's so invigorating. I think if you're up for the challenge, if you're up for it, you're running your own business. You are an entrepreneur out there, and it's fun. I've always had a lot of fun doing this type of work for sure.
That's great. Yeah, Paul, we appreciate you coming on and making the time for us and sharing some of your perspective on all things, but in particular this discovery process, this journey that you've had, and this role that we all play as, right, somebody that has a deep subject matter expertise that is now branching out beyond that subject matter expertise because that's what's required to truly advise and guide our clients. It's to take our expertise and apply that to our customers' situation. And by pairing those together, we can actually provide some guidance and advice. And you had some very practical suggestions for everybody on how to do that. So once again, we appreciate you making the time, and it was great chatting with you.
Yeah, same here. And I'm really grateful for what you're all doing for the professional services community. I've been looking for a community like this for a long time, and the tech space and the consulting space is huge and spans a lot of different subject areas. But I feel like I'm home with you guys, listening to all your podcasts. I'm nodding in the car, like, yes, exactly, yes. So I really appreciate what you're doing for the community out there, and best of luck growing it even further.
Thanks so much. We'll see you soon, bud.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Yeah, I thought what I like about Paul, so many things I like about Paul. One is his warmth. He just is, and he is having fun. I love that he said he's having fun, because that's what we want everybody to do. This is a profession. Get out there, have fun. You can own your own destiny, and it's not easy. What do you say? If you can get into it, if you like it, if you can find your way, whatever term you used, I like that. Also, I like that he quickly turned his group into more advisory than just do the activities.
Yeah. And advisory does not mean you are a pure play strategy consulting firm. It just means you are providing advice and guidance and taking your technical skills and recognizing patterns that you see in clients that have gone through the same journeys as each other and connecting some dots, or sometimes even just recognizing what two different stakeholders within the same client are saying, and they haven't had that conversation, or they haven't been able to hear each other on the same topic. And so just bringing clarity and alignment is very valuable. And no surprise that he and that approach have yielded some results and helped to support the sales of lots of deals over the years.
Yeah, and interesting. We shared with him some of the tools to teach people those techniques, and he was just as fun as he was there. He was very funny on a call with me the other day, where he goes, "Oh, I could have saved myself a decade if somebody would have shared the tools with me." But anyway, great guy. So glad we had him. We'll see him again.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And for everybody out there that enjoyed this, check us out on YouTube or your podcast channels, and subscribe to get more content from us. As we referenced previously, we'll be pushing out these pieces of content, as well as we're starting to release 10-minute episodes that cover a very quick and pertinent topic that's going on in the industry right now. And so you'll get access to both of those. If you want to get in contact with Dean or myself, best way to do that is through our LinkedIn channels. But you can also always email the show at podcast@consultantsway.com. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to hearing from you.
Bye-bye.